Hello, everyone. Another book club with Women on the Move book club. I can't even talk right now. But anyway, another time with six illustrious ladies this evening joining us. And we'll first start with introductions. I'm Cindy.
I'm Angie.
I'm Melody.
I'm Sam.
I'm Vivian.
Okay. I'm Zadie.
All right. So it's you have six awesome ladies with you tonight, and it's Melody's book club. So she's hosting this evening. So I'll turn it over to her so she can share the title of the book, and we are following her lead.
Hey, my book was The Lonesome Gods by Louis L'Amour, and he's one of the authors that when I was younger I started reading and haven't stopped. And so I wanted to share one of these books with you guys. And so The Lonesome Gods is actually set kind of as you're going westward towards California, so kind of in the Mojave Desert and on down by San Bernardino and Palm Springs area. That's where most of the setting takes place. And anyways, what I wanted to ask you guys is, I guess what was what were you surprised about? Let's start there. Was there anything you were surprised about?
Well, I'll
I
start.
go.
Go ahead, Vivian. Go ahead.
I was surprised to find out who Alfredo was.
Okay. Yes, I absolutely agree with you. I knew something
Yes.
was going to come about with that, but it was like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
Mhm.
Okay. Angie?
Well, I knew of Louis L'Amour books because my grandfather used to read them, and I always thought they were kind of like the Barbara Cartland of Westerns, for men. But I was very pleasantly surprised by the book. I really enjoyed it. I love the setting because it's a familiar setting. We're very close to it here, and I've lived in the desert twice because my husband's in the military, out in the Mojave Desert twice. So I knew a lot of the places, and that was pretty interesting also. Um, and um, and so I was really happy to learn how much stuff that they put in there about the Kahia Indians and the lifestyle and the respect that he paid to them throughout the book. They were portrayed to be, just people of the land, so they knew it. And then they did make a foray over here into the bottom of the San Joaquin Valley when they went to get the horses. So that was kind of fun too. So
Yes.
there's a lot of little things that surprised me along the way, like, oh, look, I know that area. So,
I think the character that surprised me the most was Mrs. Nesselrod because in the beginning, you weren't really sure how strong she was going to be and what her objective was when she got to Los Angeles, and everybody was kind of speculating. And she turned out to really be a very strong
Mhm.
feminist.
Mhm.
Yes. I think just a strong person overall.
Yes,
You didn't, I mean, you know, there was the idea that she was something more than she was, and
right.
to find that she actually had the strength and the courage to be, she created herself. I
She
just
could
thought,
stand up to any man,
yeah,
and she did very successfully.
she did. She did.
Exactly.
And
And
I
men
was
didn't know how to
surprised.
take her because they weren't the men back then in
Exactly.
the 18, because this takes place in like 1842 when the book starts. So they were like, oh, is she somebody's woman or is she somebody's widow? They didn't know how to take her because they weren't used to a woman with stature and means, and one who was sophisticated, attractive, stood up to men. They didn't know how to take her. They were attracted to her, but they were intimidated by
Mhm.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And I was surprised when and I can't remember his name, but he came out looking for her to take her back to Russia on
Yes.
there.
Oh,
And I was like, oh, that's how she came out here, you know. So that was surprising. A little
that she
twist in the
escaped
story.
Russia and
She
Yeah,
he,
she escaped, yes,
yeah.
on there, and was their family was in Siberia, I guess, and they
Hmm.
killed all her family.
yeah,
And I was like, wow, that was surprising.
But
right.
she stood up to him too.
She did.
She did.
Exactly.
And then he wanted to date her
Oh, he
apparently.
surely did.
Yeah.
I'll say that I don't, I'll say that I was most intrigued, and the first chapter drew me in. I was just so intrigued by the fact that you have this father who knows he's dying and he's trying to help his son head west. And Johannes, I'll uh, pronounce his name that way, he's only 6 years old. He
Yes.
was
Right.
so mature. I mean, how
Hmm.
many? I mean, I deal with children, and it's like I don't know any 6 year olds like Johannes. I know a lot of adults who can't hold a candle to this young boy, but he was so mature, so level headed, and I was just fascinated by his character growth through the book
Yes.
and
Well, what I
oh, excuse me, his clarity of recognizing how much he was drawn to the land.
Hmm.
Yes. Yes. And what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I think that Johannes, he was a great character in the book, but what I thought was he really lived up to his parents' expectations. He lived right up to what they expected the most out of him, and they raised him expecting the most out of him. They knew what he was capable of, and he didn't disappoint.
Right. I no, I agree. And I think sometimes that does happen, especially when you are an only child and they moved. You could hear
Mhm.
that they moved, and so they did set some expectations. And um, but they also, I think what I liked about both the parents from what we knew is that they were very upfront with him. They told him
Mhm.
Yes.
exactly what was up about his grandfather, about California, about them moving, about them, not moving but fleeing actually.
Mhm.
And I also appreciated the fact that the father was point blank. Look, I'm not going to be around, but this is what I need you to watch for. This is what I need to
Right.
do. So,
And the exposure that he got to the people that they knew, you
yeah,
Mhm.
know, on there,
Exactly.
that was really something. Edgar Allan Poe and just different
Oh,
people
yeah.
that he was exposed to,
Mhm.
you know.
yes, and that they instilled that love of learning into him,
They
and
did
Mhm.
at
that
an early age.
yes, yes. Um, this I really want to caution. I didn't want to ask you guys what your favorite character was because there just are so many. To me, there were so many good characters in there. Um, I just appreciated them, I guess, and that's we kind of already talked about some of the resilience that they've had, but what I'd like to know is what did you think about his different mentors?
They were fabulous. Of course, the first one, first and foremost, was the dad. And then
Yes.
what
Mhm.
was the name of the gentleman who ran the
The school.
the
I think Farley, something
yeah,
Farley.
Farley.
Farley, the one who
Farley.
ran who
The
guided them
wagon.
west.
Farley.
Yes,
That's right.
Farley. And then the one who came back for him.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes. So,
Finney, was that
so
Finney?
sorry, go ahead, Vivian.
Was that Finney that came back for him?
I can't, I don't remember his name. The guy, the peg leg, right?
Yes.
No,
Oh no,
Peg Leg.
That's it.
Right.
no,
Was
Yep,
the
there you
bandit.
Peg
go.
Leg was the one that found him in the desert.
Yeah.
Correct. Peg leg. Yes.
Peg
Oh,
Leg.
I know what you're saying. The one who came back
Mhm.
to tell him it was time to come, you miss that Now I can't think of her
It's
name either.
Nesselrod.
That she
Nesselrod.
Nesselrod.
had wanted him to
Nestle
come.
Road. Nestle Road.
So, I mean,
Nestle Road.
you have the mentor of the father, you have the mentor of the wagon train people. Okay, some of
Correct.
and there were some good mentors and some bad mentors,
Yes.
obviously. And you could tell he knew the difference.
Mhm.
Then, when he finally, they arrive at the little cabin and
Francisco.
yes, Francisco, and then you've got the Native Americans that gave him a huge mentorship in Nesselrod, and I just was like, it showed total community in my mind. That just, it was like they all embraced this child, knowing that his father was a good man and that he just wanted the best for him.
Right.
Anyways,
The only thing I thought was that there was a lot of black and white characters.
Okay.
There wasn't too many characters that were shaded. I mean, old Peg Leg, I mean, he was a bad guy, but there was a good side to him. You saw
Yes.
that.
Uh-huh.
And I think you saw that Megan could make some bad decisions, but then
Yes.
and maybe same with Aunt Elena, Tia Elena. But otherwise, it seemed like everyone either fell on one side or the other.
Yeah, there's a little, you're right. There's a lot of that. I guess, who do you think made the biggest impact
On his life?
Yeah.
Or he learned so much from everyone, but probably his father, who set the foundation for him.
Exactly.
And really taught him not to be afraid and to trust himself.
Right.
I mean, we kind of set him up.
Right.
Well, one of the things that he kept saying, and he learned from his father, I am Johannes Burns. I am not afraid.
Not afraid.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
am not afraid.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While his father was living, I'd say his father, but after his father died, I'd say Francisco influenced him greatly in a quiet manner. And then Nestle Road, she really made an
Right.
impact on his life.
Yes. No, I agree. Because he just, she pushed him towards things, but also protected him in the same, in the same realm.
What I found about the book, and it seemed for me, it was kind of a theme going through it, was find out what your passion in life is and then pursue it. And I think that's one of the things that Mrs. Nesselrode, Miss Nesselrode, taught him was find out what your passion is and then make wise choices and pursue that passion.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Was it Farley though, who was the right-hand man then for Nesselrod, who she sent with him to get the horses, and he seemed to be kind of take over kind of a father figure role a lot of the time. But there were so many names that started with F. I got them.
It was
Was it Farley or Finney or
Penny. I
it
think
was
Finney.
It wasn't, because we don't really see Farley. I mean, after the wagon train, we don't really see Farley.
Is it Finney then?
I think it was Finney. Let's see, Jacob. I've been here a long time, Jacob. And then there was also Kelso, right?
There was Kelso.
Kelso came after, I think, Finney.
Yeah, but I think, and he and Finney worked for Nestle Road quite a bit.
Yeah. And they were the original hands for Farley, right? They were kind of the protectors of the wagon, I think, or and so anyways. So now in regards to the title, The Lonesome Gods, what do you think the Lonesome Gods represents?
Well, when I found out who Alfredo was, I felt like he was a lonesome god.
Yes.
Well, and also the people who had gone before who were no longer around. I mean, they talked about the people who had been lost out there or, no longer existed.
I'm not Yeah, I'm not sure how they pronounce it. Is it cairns? Those statues that they kind of build out of rocks and they put every place in the desert. And
Yeah.
those were the ones that I was kind of thinking of also as they were guides and they put a rock or they paid some type of something to those rocks. I didn't quite understand it, but several times he had to give something to those that piece of the desert
Right.
so they would know where they were.
Right. So, I mean, it kind of served two dual purposes, right?
Right.
Be along the trail to know that people were coming this way and that there's a direction or whatever. But then also kind of a nod to those who'd come before and
Yes.
whether they, continued on or whether they possibly passed there. That was where they were at. Um, I also kind of felt like it was for him, you know, it was some of the stories from the past, but also his inner spirit,
Yes.
Mhm.
that that just kind of kept pushing him on. I mean, like we see the older gentleman with the turquoise necklace shows up about
Mhm.
2 or 3 times, I believe, and nobody else sees him.
Right.
So,
Yes.
you kind of just go, okay, is this someone guiding him as he goes?
Exactly.
I think too, um, in the book when it talked about he would come back to the cabin and there was a book missing and a new book in
Mhm.
its in place. Um, that was kind of regarded as somebody or a God, something watching over him or providing for him, make sure he was okay. So I think that kind of lends itself to the title too.
Hmm.
Yeah, because
I
prior to him knowing who it ended up being, he just felt like it was just kind of someone watching over him.
Mhm.
You know, and I don't know. That was it was kind of funny. I read this like back when I was in high school. So rereading it again was like, oh, that's right. I forgot about this, and I forgot about the stories. I mean, I have to say that was one of the things about Lula Moore that I love is that he is a storyteller. There's no other way to put it.
Mhm.
And he uses the history of the place that he writes about to bring it alive.
mhm.
And so just even talking about how they came up on the ship and here's this young boy who was bullied by this other person who we find out later is the right hand man of their grandfather. I mean, it's like you learn all these things and you're like, oh my goodness, it kind of all tied all those little.
There was a lot of foreshadowing,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
but I did not expect Alfonso to come back the way he did. I mean, I expected Kelso to be, not Kelso, who was the bad guy who was on the wagon train with them? Um, the one
Barney?
guy, I kept thinking, in the
um,
climax, that bad guy is going to come back again.
yes, and I mean, and he does, but
And he does. His father warned him about him, and he's
Mhm.
you
right.
know,
I
uh,
can't remember his name right now. It
I
was,
know.
gosh.
I had a
There's
little
so
chart.
many names.
I know there were a lot of names,
Right, there were.
but I mean, I guessed that, but I didn't guess. I mean, I never would. And then I actually really liked that at the end with where Alfonso's with Peter. And I mean, there was that was a really nice little story within the story of Peter and the woman who took Alfonso and what they,
Yeah.
Mhm.
that was really nice.
Exactly. And then that just revealed how the grandfather, he was so prejudiced. He held a
Yes.
grudge
Mhm.
that because he was Spanish royalty, and he held a grudge that
Mhm.
his daughter didn't marry within the culture. So he held that against, her husband and then his grandchild, not even thinking, it's half my daughter, I should embrace her. And then he has this other son who's not, quote unquote, what he thinks he should be. So he just
Right.
discards them.
Yeah.
And it's like he was
Mhm.
wicked.
But
Yeah.
he
Mhm. Yes, he
married
was.
Was.
Exactly.
He was.
somebody outside his culture because when they talk about the mother, wasn't she from North Africa or something like that, when they talked about the mother of Alfonso? Because he
That was a lady
Oh,
that just took care of
yes.
him.
That was no, yeah, that was the lady who just took
Lady
care
that took care of
so
him.
they never mentioned the mother?
Well,
No, she
he
died.
considered her his mom because she took care
Yeah.
of him, but that wasn't his mother.
No.
Okay.
And that even says, I think the Aunt Alina says that, when his wife did die,
Hmm.
everything changed.
Right.
And
He
Mhm.
became
or
bitter.
he became very bitter. And that's when they came over to, well, came or traveled, took the ship through. Um, Sorry, there was a question I was going to ask, and it just left me.
I did love hearing about how small Los Angeles was.
Oh,
Yeah.
3,000 people? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that
That
was
was fun.
Yeah.
It's
I
it's
said, I
And I
said it was
like
so
they
different from
named
the Los
everything.
Angeles that I grew up in.
Right. I like they named everything, the La Brea tar pits and,
Yes.
Yes, that was
and
Yeah.
cool.
you're
Spring
like,
Street. Remember
I
Spring
know where
Street was
everything
just
is.
a little
Yeah.
La
Yeah.
Cienega?
La
Yeah.
Cienega.
Yeah.
And I loved it because it gave me the history of a lot of the street names that I
Hmm.
Right.
grew
Yes,
up with, like
Right.
yes,
Yes.
Pico and like you were saying, La
Yes.
Cienega and all of those things. So that was pretty cool learning that Los Angeles history.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
Well,
Yes, one
that
time
just
I had to drive on the 210, that foothill here, and I just kept thinking, well, those are the hills. They could have been that
Right.
could have been one of the little, areas that they went through right there, and
Mhm.
because it was, and you look at it, and it does look very rugged.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, definitely.
Well, what I thought was interesting too was the amount of research that must have gone into it to
Hmm.
write this book, because it was not only a fictional story, but it was historical
Yes.
also.
Exactly.
Hmm.
When you talk about Los Angeles and the area and the
Yeah,
desert, it was good to hear about the Mojave Desert
yeah,
Right.
Hmm.
And
yeah,
the Tehachapi Indians.
and
I didn't
Tehachapi.
know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I didn't know there were Indians up in the Tehachapi area. So,
yes. Actually, all in this area,
yeah.
there are, which is one of the reasons. Like, I don't know right now. I think one of you guys were talking about going to the Hard Rock Cafe. Um, that is a collection of different tribes. It's not just one
Mm.
tribe.
Hmm.
It
Oh,
is
Hmm.
actually quite a few. And in our area, I think the Talatalato were actually more here, but there's very few of them left.
Yeah.
But it goes all the way, like even on the other side, like where if you go to Big Bear and Palm Spring area, that's the Serrano Indians. So
Mhm.
you have a lot of different and just like the native I shouldn't say the Native Americans would move with the summer and with the winter. So like
Right.
they were a lot up in more the high desert, then they would start to move down towards LA and everything else
Hmm.
during winters to because of different stuff. So you'll see that movement a lot. But yeah, there's quite a few different types of tribes. So
And to see the Native American influence, and we talked a little bit about it a second ago, in Los Angeles.
yeah.
Um, and that, as I said, growing up, I never heard all of that history and all of the influence that the Native Americans had. So it was refreshing to read all of that
hmm.
about places that I had been, like Wilshire Boulevard. I said, oh, they in Beverly
Correct.
Hills now.
Exactly.
So yeah, just the different, it really did shape the area.
Hmm.
Even your rancheros that came up and like his grandfather and stuff. Without the Native Americans, they wouldn't have known some of the different holes to go to, some of the different where the
Right.
horses and all those different
Hmm.
uh, different things that occurred.
And
And
then they
that's
call
one of
them.
the big influences of Native Americans across the United States
Hmm.
is their caring for people coming to this country or to this land. They would have
Hmm.
never survived without the Native Americans.
Correct.
Even
Yes.
traveling west, they would have
Right.
never
Correct.
survived
Hmm.
Right.
Correct.
because the Native Americans knew where the water was. They knew um, um, where the food sources were, what not to touch, eat, what to eat, and they taught all of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly. And plant
And
Yeah.
I think
healing.
it.
Yes,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Well,
Mhm.
they even talked about the father talked about, escaping from the desert. He couldn't have done it without the friendships that he had with the different
Exactly.
Native Americans, which when Johannes comes, they embrace him like he's one of their own.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Because it's like the relationship that the father had transferred to the son. So that was beautiful to see that.
Right.
And then they're called the Californians were the Hispanic
the
people that,
Mexicans. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the Mexicans there, they were called Californians, you know. So I
Yeah.
was like, oh,
So, and it's something, especially in California for us to remember as well is, you know, there were more Californians
right,
Yes.
than there were
right.
Mm-hmm.
Westerners.
Right.
Yeah, and they own the land, you know, they owned a
Right.
lot of the land down there.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
the Native Americans really and the Californians were here first,
Correct.
right,
but that's
right.
not the history a lot of us learned.
Yes.
Right. Right. No, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, about Sutter's Mill and oh gosh. Mhm.
Now, if you want to read more about Sutter's Mill, Comstock Lode by Louis L'Amour is a good one too. just so you know,
Mm.
they talk all about it then with that one. Um, I guess so. One of the things I was just thinking with this story, I mean, it's a journey as you can see, and what I guess what journey besides Johannes's journey of trying to growing up and learning, and I mean he then learned about his family and different things. What other what other journeys took place during this time that made an impact for you in the book? So like it could be someone else's journey, the father's journey. What made an impact for you?
I'll start off with the father. I
Mm-hmm.
just absolutely adored him. I felt so badly for him because he knew he was leaving this 6-year-old behind, but he did everything within his power to equip his son so that he
Yes.
could be independent. The father had beautiful relationships with other people. I believe when he left, he knew, and he was defending his son and saved his son,
Right,
and that's
Mm-hmm.
how he got killed. I believe
right,
the father knew when he took his last breath, he knew that his son would be okay. He was going to be in good hands with the lessons that he had learned from his father and the embracing of the community. So I just, can you imagine as a parent, you're
Mm-hmm.
doing everything within your power. And then when he was fighting, and they said he was a good shot, and he was a strong man. And I just loved seeing the father's short journey in the book and all that he left with his son, and his son stood strong afterwards. So there's another person, but I'm sure someone else will pick this individual. So I'll just say the
Well,
father's journey was beautiful to me.
to dovetail on the father's journey, though, one of the things that made an impact on me was when the father said to him, I can't leave you much, but I can leave you wisdom. And
Mm-hmm.
that that was kind of throughout the book, the father's journey, and that was just very impactful for me. I don't have much to leave you, but wisdom is something I can leave you, and no one can take away.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And Sam, that's the greatest gift because look at
Yes,
Solomon when
it
God
is.
asked, what do you want? He could have asked for wealth, he could have asked
Mm-hmm.
for
Mhm.
something material, but what did he ask for? Wisdom.
for
And
Wisdom.
then,
wisdom.
because if you have
Mhm.
wisdom, you
Wisdom,
can get everything else. So,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
yes,
exactly.
that was
Mm-hmm.
profound.
Yes, I
I
agree.
was I was impressed with Johannes' journey, his
Yeah.
journey
Hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
life, being left when his father died and having to fend for himself and remember all the lessons that his father had taught him, and to learn on his own and make friends and that would help him to grow. So his journey all through his this whole book was his journey, and
Hmm.
it was really you kind of felt like you grew up with him, because it
Yes.
started when he was just a young man. And you can see how he really had to face life before he even knew what life was really all about. Especially when he found out that he liked Megan.
Yeah.
He said, I never felt like that before, and it was a new thing for him and everything. So I was impressed with his whole journey.
Yeah,
I
I
But
agree.
agree.
how quickly they became, how quickly he developed into manhood, because he couldn't have been more than 16, 17 years old
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
at the end of the book. And I can't imagine my 15-year-old grandson being that equipped to handle life alone by himself.
Right. Such a different time. I mean,
Most
because
Yes.
definitely.
he was really forced. I mean, going back to the father's journey, when he would actually say to Johannes, he say, "Now you need to notice this character.
Yes.
Mhm.
Notice how they respond. Notice how they help other people." And it was like it just, the lesson is being taught right there. So,
I think
Mhm.
that's we've seen young characters in True Grit and
mhm,
Right.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Pretty Horses, and in this, where you have young people who just have had to grow up faster, and they do. But
yeah,
I was really impressed with the growth of Tia Elena because
Yes.
Yes.
she, growing up
Mhm.
in Spain, was very traditional. She was always subservient to the men in her life, and especially her brother. But she saw in Miss Nesselrode somebody who could be her mentor and somebody who stood for something. And by having her, she was able to, you know, save the family wealth, at least for herself and for
Yes.
Johannes. So
Mhm.
and I think she was initially trying to save her brother.
yeah,
Yes.
Hmm. He
and she
You
would have
Mhm.
was.
saved him, but he wouldn't give it to her. Yeah,
One, yeah.
He was too
yeah,
stubborn.
he wouldn't.
Yeah.
He was too
Mhm.
stubborn. And he wouldn't have accepted from her anyways.
It's
So
too
Right.
much like his dad.
Well, he was borrowing money and not paying anything back. He just
Correct.
borrowed
Mhm.
the money, and so that's how they were losing their land.
yeah,
But I
absolutely.
love when she told him, "Oh no, this is my farm. This is my
That's
Yes.
right.
my land. This is
Mhm.
That's
my house. This is." I
king.
was like,
Yeah.
"Go, go, 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 Tia
Yeah.
Elena. Good job."
Yeah, and women couldn't own things back then.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Remember,
Mhm.
she
That
used to have Farley go buy stuff for her,
Yes.
yes.
land or
right,
different things, transact business. And I think
right.
she was her journey really inspired me, is that against all odds, she still found a way. And
Yes,
that's uh, what women have done for centuries, decades,
right.
centuries,
That's right. It's
regardless of the circumstance, regardless of the naysayers, regardless of the no's. We've still found a way to make it and to make sure that generations are cared for, families, we have finance to do what needs to be done. And so I think she took her role as a woman as a challenge to show other people that yes, I can make it. And I think her story parallels Johannes's story, regardless of what, orphaned at 8 years old, but all of that, he still made it. So I think her journey really was inspiring.
yeah. Anybody else? I have to say I like Alfredo's journey too. He
Yes.
Yes.
he took a quiet journey, and we only learn about it later. But and it was, to me, it was heart wrenching that he ended up, here he is just introduced and could be, he could have friends here, and he ends up that he's dying, and but it was like it was such a sweet, like, he chose to not, necessarily make people afraid of him or be a part of people, but at the same time he was a part of them, like leaving the books for Johannes and
Mhm.
helping when he could, and saving. That was the one people who say he saved in the desert.
Mhm.
Um, anyways, I
He was very full of love, very inspiring.
Mhm.
Yes.
But I
Mhm.
also, the Black Stallion had a journey.
Oh, yes.
yes,
He came around and then, together with Johannes, each saving each other, um, they made it through it. But again, I always love that relationship between the person and the animal, either the horse,
Mhm.
dog, or whatever. They always seem to be the people at their best with their animals.
yes, and he knew he knew he was going to be tough to break, but it's like those instincts within him. He was like, no, this is a good horse, this is a good animal.
You know what? In the end, he wasn't really hard to break.
Mhm.
It was just time and building a relationship.
Relationship, yes.
Mhm.
Trust.
Isn't that what relationship is about too? Just
Mhm.
Mhm.
building it and just being there. It
Like,
maybe just sitting there with a piece of sugar in your hand.
yeah,
So yeah.
Even the horse that Megan was riding was trying to protect her from getting
Mhm.
caught because he tried to stop her and she just kept forcing him to go.
Mhm.
And yeah.
Yeah, yeah, very true. And then we also, at the beginning, we see a Mrs. Weber, and then at the end, we kind of see her show up again too. It was kind of like a little cameo.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I thought that was kind of fun how, she's like, oh, I traveled on a wagon train with those. Let's make sure they stay out.
there were little Easter eggs all through it where people would come back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I guess is there any other thoughts on this story? Any other things that you really felt like this was something important to know?
I just
I
want to
think
say that
definitely.
I loved the book. It was a page
Mhm.
turner. I love the journeys. Angie mentioned character development wasn't really deep with a lot of the characters, but we saw a lot of strength. I think strength was a thread that went throughout the book with the characters. But I love the story. I loved what it represented, and I loved the fact that they showed people persevered and they overcame.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It
One
was
of the
very
things
action.
that I found throughout the book, was that education didn't necessarily have to be formal,
Yes.
as long as you
Mhm.
could read and you could
Yeah.
understand. Because wasn't it Alfredo that built the house just from looking at books? He built
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
floor. And so, and that was the same thing with Johannes. Um, his education was through books.
Yeah. Well, even Mrs. Nesselrode, I mean, or
Yes,
Miss Nesselrode, she observed.
Nesselrod. Yeah.
Yeah, Rod,
Mhm.
sorry. She observed everything and saw what was going on. She knew
Hmm.
when people like the rancheros were borrowing money. She knew that that wasn't a good
Hmm.
thing. And then she was like, okay, what can I do to make this better? She ended up opening her shop so that she could listen and hear people and
Mhm.
in a roundabout
Mhm.
way without them even suspecting she was listening and stuff. It was like you said, not a formal education, but it was enough for her to get, okay, I understand what's going on here. And we even go back to, Tia Elena.
Yes.
She was like, she goes, okay, I need to know what I can do to help, with this too. So you're right. There wasn't the formal education, but it was definitely an education.
And the
Mhm.
practical education can be more valuable than the book education.
Mhm.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So, any other thoughts on the Lonesome Gods?
It
Good
is.
book. I learned a lot throughout this whole book, and I enjoyed all of the characters. Everybody had a part to play, and it really shaped this young man's life. Each person had a part to helping him grow into the person that he became.
And
I will miss
helping
the
him
character.
stay alive.
I did go to bed thinking about them, so I will miss.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is funny because it's a pretty thick book, and it's like
Mhm.
you kind of go, oh, I wonder what they're doing. You do kind of, it's like, what would they have done with this? So
I
Mm-hmm.
think this book also gave me a greater appreciation for Westerns, which I would have never picked up on my own. And
Yes.
the books that we've read so far, with the exception of Dry
Mm-hmm.
Bones, which I didn't particularly care for, were great.
no, no, I think they've been all been very good, very different. So I mean,
Very
Mm-hmm.
different.
I
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple other Western authors that I like, but like I said, Louis L'Amour was my first, and I just have continued to like. I mean, he has others that are not just Westerns. He does have a few they're not, but if you ever want to, I highly recommend reading his biography. He wrote it. It's called the Education of a Wandering Man, and
Mm,
he honestly has lived some of these lives. He
mm,
was a deckhand. He hopped trains. He was a hobo. He's done all of these different things that he writes about, and it was fascinating to me to read that, to actually put it into perspective how he wrote his books. So because he initially started with, and his education was the little pocket books. They're just little
I
Yeah.
remember those.
in your pocket,
Mm-hmm.
and that was how he started learning about storytelling. And anyways, so if you ever want to listen to read a good biography, his Education of a Wandering Man is very good.
Awesome. Thank
So
you for the tip.
well, thank you guys.
It was a good book.
It
Right.
was.
very
Thank you
good.
so very much, Melody. We all enjoyed The Lonesome God by Louis L'Amour. So this has been another successful book club. And we're signing off for tonight.